Underhill. Make sure you guys follow Nick on Twitter at Nick_Underhill. Make sure you go into NewOrleans.Football /subscribe. Pick a tier, pick the one that works best for you. There's a few different options. There's a lot of good information on the site this week. Of course, Nick posts, he has his post-game article that went up every week. He posted that right after the game this past Sunday. After that, film breakdown. Again, that's another weekly article that comes out. And then from there, it's just kind of what's going on with the Saints and what interests Nick. Of course, the big thing this week is Jameis Winston. So he went in depth, kind of spoke about him. We kind of expect with him some of the things you can kind of take from the game, some of the things you can't. So make sure you guys are going to the site, checking out those articles. They're all there. Make sure you guys follow Nick on, I guess, Periscope. You can follow him there at Nick_Underhill, Twitch, NewOrleans.Football, YouTube, search Nick Underhill. He's everywhere, man. We can't get
They got it.
You're everywhere, man. You're everywhere. What's up? Let's talk some football. How's it going?
It's Jameis time, man. This is going to be, I don't know. This is probably like the most exciting week of the year just because of the unknown, the unknown factor. I think when they signed Jameis, I think everybody wanted to see him go through an offseason, see how he could learn, play in a couple preseason games. Obviously, you'd rather have Drew Brees out there every single snap at every single game.
Right.
You can't change what's happened. So, I mean, it does make for an exciting atmosphere, just for this week to see what this guy can do. And I'm extremely curious. I think we saw some glimpses, but we're about to really find out.
We're about to find out. The secret's about to be out the bag. And I'm with you. Like, maybe other than week one, because that's always just like a weird week. It's an exciting week. It sucks the circumstance because you never want to see no one get hurt, specifically Drew. But this thing can go either way. The good news is that they have experience with this. They did it last year. They did it with a different quarterback. We're going to see how it goes, man. Before we get started, I want to shout out chat. Just, I see the messages. It's a little different, man. I want to show some love to the people that's showing up to, support the live stream. And just want to thank everybody for coming in here and giving us some love. So you guys are the reason why we can do this. Trust me, if this pod got 0 listens, we would not record it. So thank you guys and shout out to all you guys. Let's get into it. So let's just start off the top. Drew's hurt. We don't know if it's going to be IR at this point. We don't know if it's not. There's details still coming out. So just kind of give a rundown on the situation. Give people who maybe don't follow Ed Werder on Twitter, an update about his condition and what we can kind of expect, just to hear more about this from the limited information that we have.
Yeah, so basically, Ed's the greatest Brees reporter alive. Like, whatever Ed says about Drew is true. It's almost the same as hearing it out of Drew's mouth.
Right.
So what he says is gospel on the situation. It's not even worth, like, you just wait for Ed to report it, because that's just he's gotten every single story on Drew throughout Drew's whole entire career. So,
he's probably getting it from Drew.
I have no idea where he's getting it from, but all I know is when he says something about Drew, it's gold. So Look, the thing that he said is that Drew had broken ribs the week before, and I think that there was evidence of something going on. I know there was the shoulder injury that everybody knew about, but they showed him with the flak jacket, and that stuff. Not every injury shows up on the injury report. If you don't get it treated by the team, by the doctor, if you're doing things on your own and nobody knows about it, nobody knows about it. And if he's trying to play through things. He's trying to play through things, and look, he's an extremely tough individual. He came back out there and threw a touchdown.
Competitive as they come. I mean, come on, man.
He threw a touchdown with a punctured lung.
Yeah, so and 5 broken ribs.
I mean, that's up there with like Kobe hitting a foul shot with a torn Achilles. Like, it's just these guys that are at the top of their craft in sports. This is why, like, they're willing to go to those levels and do those things. And
absolutely.
I heard this week that. On Monday, someone told me, during the game, Drew thought his back tightened up. He thought he had a tightened muscle in his back, and he was trying to get it loose. He came out second half. He felt like his back wasn't loosening up.
Yeah.
He goes in the injury tent. He's trying to get his back loosened up still. Come to find out, like, all this work he's doing to try to get his back loosened up to go back out on the field was the flattened lung. And the lung was out of place. And it was like, that's what he felt it in his back. And he thought it was just a muscle. And, he was trying to find a way to play through it still. But
man, that's crazy. Your lung, like that.
I know.
Your lung. You got 2 of those. Like, yeah, that's.
I think off the initial opinion, they thought it was going to be 3 weeks. Ed said today, they're getting a second opinion to find out if it's an IR thing or not. But either way, I think you can expect him to miss at least a couple games.
I think that's fair. That's
time
fair.
for Jameis, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
well, we're assuming Jameis.
We're assuming. Well, let's assume Jameis. But I'll say this:
I'm 99% assuming Jameis, but on the 1% chance Sean came out and blitzed everybody basically and threw Taysom out there, I wouldn't be totally shocked. But I am assuming Jameis.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for it. Yeah, I'm assuming Jameis too. I'm assuming Jameis. I do think you're going to get a healthy dose of Taysom Hill. I think that's fair. I think that he has to.
You throw?
I mean, like say maybe 20% more snaps than what he's getting now, right?
Can you do that with two quarterbacks on the team?
Well, let me put it like this: if he's playing, maybe how many snaps he averages a game now offense? I don't know. Say if it's 10, I can see it being 13 or something like that. I can see it just being a little bit more.
But he didn't play at all when Teddy, basically didn't play at all when Teddy was in there last
year.
You
know what though? I'm glad you bring that up because he's your backup quarterback now, and you need him healthy.
Yeah, so I'm wondering
if that's actually a good point because you can't afford for him to get hurt on the special teams play. When now Winston's your only quarterback. So yeah, that's interesting. Maybe I can definitely see it being the case where you get less Taysom, and he's going to have to prepare as a backup this week, maybe instead of. I don't even know who the emergency backup quarterback is. Willie Snead is gone.
It could maybe Emmanuel Sanders. I think he's played some quarterback before. Alvin can throw the ball. I don't think it would be Alvin, but I mean, look, I think if you want to run your Wildcat package, this is the time to pull out the Alvin Wildcat package. I don't think that it necessarily has to be Taysom. I think you can run those plays with somebody else, and if you want to get crazy, do it with him. Look. All I'm saying is I see players like catch passes down the field during practice, and then they throw the ball back to the quarterbacks. And there's one guy that can spin the ball, and every time he throws it, and you're like, wow, this guy can really throw the football. That's Alvin.
He does everything else, so why not?
This is never going to happen, but I'm going to talk about it until it does, and I'm going to manifest it to the point where one day Alvin does play Wildcat quarterback for like 10 plays in a game. I think now's the time. Like Sean, just do it, please just do it.
You're an optimist, man. Listen, if this is
they showed it early in the season. It exists.
Listen, if there's a week forward, I think this is the week.
Look, they showed the look early in the year. It exists for a reason. They showed it for a reason. At some point, it's coming back. I have to believe it. Sean doesn't just do anything by mistake. He shows something, and then it'll reappear. At least even just a little bit to remind people that it exists. So like, there's going to be another play at some point.
I believe that. I think that could have been the case with a healthy Drew, though, right? So
yeah, let's talk in reality though. Like Jameis is going to be the quarterback probably.
I think. Okay, so what do you expect that the Saints are going to do? Like, how do you think they're going to try to set this game up from a schematic standpoint? Like the game planning. What do you want from Jameis? Like, how do you think they approach that? Because I got a few different ideas. I can see them like 1st and 10, first drive. Just let them bomb it out just to see what happens, right? That's the exciting side. The flip side is they lean on the run. If the defense is playing well, then they're going to even be more conservative. Like, just how do you think they approach this game?
Well, I think first of all, I don't know that you can turn Jameis into a game manager like Teddy, and I think. In some respects, I think Teddy was a better backup quarterback because you knew you could put him in. You knew that he was going to be naturally conservative, and you could condense the offense even more around him and lean on your defense and lean on your running game. And you can still do some of that stuff with Jameis, but at the same time, you can't change Jameis completely from being Jameis. You have to allow him to be who he is and put him in a game plan that's going to accentuate his skills. And now I think that you can allow him to be himself while also controlling him a little bit more. And I think even in Tampa Bay, you saw the two spectrums of that early in his career. Cutter was trying to rein him in a little bit. And then Bruce was pushing him out to be a little bit more,
both
be
guys
a little bit more reckless.
A little too far left, too far right.
So I think that you can bring him into this game and let Jameis be Jameis, but don't make mistakes. And I think you can run your offense. You still run the same passing concepts and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you go through it Saturday night, you find out what he's comfortable with, what he feels good running. So right there alone, you're going into a game plan with a little more tailored for him. So I think that he's better set up for success this week than he was last week going in at halftime. But look, one of the things we saw during camp that I thought was extremely interesting is you would see him and Drew and even Taysom, they would, if all three of them were executing the same route concept, you'd see a different approach to it. And there's there's a 3-level read to the right side of the field. Drew and Taysom are trying to hit the flat, then they're trying to hit the out route. Jameis is looking from like post in half the time.
Yeah.
And I think you can still do things the same way. And a throw down the field doesn't have to be reckless. Like Sean's passing concepts are designed to get everybody open. It's designed to get 3 guys open. It's not just designed to get the flat open. But if you have a different type of quarterback, you can get different results out of it. So you could see Jameis be a little bit more aggressive, but it doesn't mean he has to be reckless. And I'm interested to see what he can do, what they can do with his arm in this offense. And you know, has he learned how to process everything mentally? That's the huge question for him.
Yeah, I'm with you. And you guys, there's an article on the site Nick wrote more in depth. Just, you know, obviously the post game article has some Jameis nuggets in there, excuse me. But there's a whole article about it. Some of the things Nick spoke about is in there. A lot more information, so make sure you guys go check it out. So I understand what you're saying, and I do agree. And I think there's because, you know, most people think about this offense, and I don't necessarily think it's correct, but when most people perceive this offense, they say, okay, quick game, ball is coming out quick, nothing down the field, everything is short, intermediate at best is how they're gonna, you know, play this offense. And the offense has evolved into that, right? That's the offense that we have today in New Orleans, but it wasn't always like that, right? Drew, I know some people may not remember, but he was one of the best downfield passers in the league statistically for years. I mean, completion percentage. I mean, he pushed the ball downfield, and the Saints, that was part of the Saints offense. And so obviously with him aging and him getting a little bit older, you see that change, right? I mean, I think probably when Brandon Cooks one of those years, I think the year before he left was maybe the last year that he was kind of really pushing it downfield. Don't quote me on that, but that is part of the offense. And like you said, it's not just short, it's not just intermediate, it's not just deep. This offense is kind of a chameleon, right? It's who's ever at the helm, whatever type of weapons they have. If you have receivers that get open quick, it's going to be a short game. If you got guys that can get open deep, the Meachams, the Devery Hendersons, the Brandon Cooks, then the ball is going to get pushed downfield. So I think this offense is more geared toward, you know, them getting the ball out. And I don't know if the weapons necessarily support them pushing the ball downfield a lot. They have some guys who can get downfield. I think Sanders is a little bit better in that than maybe, you know, we've seen in New Orleans, because that's not how they're using him. Harris is someone that stands out. So I think there may be a shot here and there, but I think for the most part, they're going to try to define what they want Jameis to do. You know, the reads are going to be there. Sean is going to try to run routes that, you know, paint a clear picture for him, and he doesn't have to work through too much, right? And I think that's good coaching. And, you know, again, you know, I definitely can see them doing some things where he takes a shot, because I think it'd be good to see a Saints quarterback throw the ball, you know, that far downfield, you know, and that's no knock on Drew, but those are some of the things I can definitely see them doing him. He's not Drew Brees. He's not the same type of quarterback, but the offense can work for both guys. And I think that's kind of what I'm trying to get at.
I think they do have the guys that can air it out with, though. Callaway was a deep threat in Tennessee more so than underneath. Like the stuff he's doing here is out of character from his college shape. Deontay can go deep. Like you said, Sanders can go deep. So
I think they got some guys that can, but like I said, I think the offense is not built on that, and it'll be a change from there. Yeah.
But I mean, they got those calls in there, like the I'll go 52 special.
It's in there. It's definitely
I mean, like Drew likes to throw to the crossing route on that passing concept, unless it's Traquan Smith on a record-breaking play, and then he's going down the field. But you know, I think you can call that. Like I'm saying, there's vertical elements in every single play.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's in there. Like I said, it's the same offense that they've always run. The passes are just going shorter, right?
Yeah, it's just those are choices, and
exactly
they don't have to be. It doesn't have to be the same choice, and he can hit those out routes. That's the thing. Like we saw him do stuff in camp that was just. It's not outrageous, but like when you're so used to watching Drew run an offense or watching Taysom run an offense, and then all of a sudden you see somebody holding the ball for 2.6, 2.7, 2.8 seconds, and then just popping it into that out route that nobody has thrown to in 5 years on this passing concept.
It's a little weird, right? Like,
yeah,
whoa,
it's
what was
weird.
that?
So he can do stuff that the other guys can't do, and he can allow stuff to develop a little bit longer. But the one thing he did in this game too is he got rid of the ball in 2.57 seconds, whereas in Tampa Bay I think he averaged like 2.89 like the last.
It's a big difference.
The 5 years of his career there. So there's already a difference in how he's approaching the position. He's willing to do that precision passing. I think you could make the argument that on a couple throws, he could have waited a tick longer. And I think he was speeding himself up a little bit now and then. And as good as he started out in that game in the third quarter, when the interior offensive line melted down, he became extremely erratic. Like it's like he lost trust very quickly in those guys up front. And I think it affected, those back-to-back throws to Mike Thomas. And then you saw him down in the red zone. There was it looked like pressure was coming in, and he was so quick out of the pocket, and he scrambled, and it was a positive play. But I think we would have liked to see him wait for that play to develop, because I think it could have developed and he could have hit a pass out of it. But, it's going to be fascinating to see how much different he looks when he's comfortable, because if you recall, Teddy coming in against the Rams,
brutal, ugly, man,
brutal, 50% passing, and then the next week they go.
He admitted that he wasn't. He admitted that he wasn't ready too. Like he just came out and said it.
Yeah, so, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and you aren't used to coming in cold off the bench all the time. Like it's got to be a very tough call, or a McCown or whatever. Just some guys aren't used to doing that.
Chase Daniels,
Brian Hoyer.
I'm sorry, no S. My bad, Chase.
Whoever, but yeah, I mean, look, it's tough for those guys to do that. So. I think he's going to be. We'll see. I think he could be much different this week. Like I said at the top, there's elements of Teddy's game that I think makes Teddy a better quarterback for this type of situation. I don't think you're going to lose a game because of him. Jameis, you might lose a game because of him, but you also might win games because of him. And I think there's a difference between the two players too. I think, look, I'm not knocking Teddy. I think Teddy's a fine starter, but I think if everything goes right for Jameis, I think that's a very big ask, a very, very big ask. And I think it's more unlikely than likely. But if everything goes right for Jameis the next 2, 3, 4 games, you're looking at a guy like now all of a sudden, like like the talent has never been an issue. It's the mistakes. If he eliminates the mistakes and he executes the offense, you're looking at the situation a little bit differently. Like he has way more upside, way more talent.
Yeah, I mean he's the most talented guy. I mean, probably right now. Just physical talents, right? I mean, it's no question. He can put the football wherever he wants the football to go, right? Now, it may be a little high, a little bit low. We'll find that out in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I'm with you. I think, the things that I'll be looking forward to this game is, like he almost threw the pick this game on the underneath route. I'm just looking, can he not turn the ball over, right? And I know the talk on Jameis is the interceptions, and listen, that is valid. You throw 30 picks, you threw 30 picks, right? And so I want to see if he's more careful with the ball. That's going to be something I think that's important. I want to see, you mentioned his pocket presence, and I think the interior O-line struggled this past game. I think that's fair. I don't want to just start calling out guys, but that play has to get better, right? That play has to get better. So I think that kind of affected him a little bit, and I think he started anticipating pressure, and I think that's something, they're going to want to get cleaned up on the O-line, and they're going to want him to kind of be a little bit more non-chaotic in the pocket, because I thought that was something that, kind of manifested itself this game. So, I think those are a couple of areas. I want to see if he can, I want to see his ball location is something that I'll really be paying attention to. Like, when the ball is not going, 30 yards down the field, can he throw a 15-yard touch pass or 5? Can he get the ball in the flats, to the guy and let him catch it on the run and he can get some yak, right? So those are some of the things I'll be looking for, because I know he can throw the ball deep. If he completes a deep pass, then I won't be surprised. I mean, he has a big arm, right? But I want to see some of the more of the nuanced things from the quarterback position. And it's his first game starting as a Saint. It's not going to all come together in week 1, but just this experiment, this Jameis experiment, those are some of the things I want to see him be able to do, because if he can do that, then he can be successful in this offense, because he's going to have an O-line and he's going to have weapons and he's going to have a good game planner, right? So he's got everything around him that's going to facilitate his success. But, I think he has to just kind of touch on a few of those things to, kind of put himself in the running, because this may be Drew's last year. I mean, when you just take a step back and think about it, I mean, this is how you draw it up if you're Jameis. I mean, this is how you draw it up. This is it. This is it, right? This is, I don't want to say your career, but you got a chance to be good. And I'm not talking about a good player. I mean, be good. Like your career, you got a system and a consistent coach that's going to coach you up every year, and you're going to get better. This is it for him. He has to show up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he picked a situation for a reason, and I think there's a weird element here. And I noted this when they first signed him, that like when the preseason got canceled, that the Saints were in a very advantageous situation with them, because they signed a former number 1 pick with all this talent for $1 million. Yeah. Nobody was going to see him. So at the end of the season, how was anybody going to know what he was, if he was worth more? And if Drew retires, you have the inside edge, and you control the price on him, basically. Yeah. And you just let people bid blind and decide if you want to match or not. And you're the only one who actually knows how far to go with it. Yeah. Now, for Jameis, that's obviously a bad situation for him, because he wants to show what he's learning here. He came here for a reason, and then you go through all this, and nobody ever sees what you do. So yeah, I mean, it does set up really, really well for him. We got a comment here question here from Casey. Basically he's asking if the mistakes are just a habit at this point. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, that's a good question.
we don't know. I mean, I think the mistakes got magnified, or they got doubled really last year with a new coach. So I think you can say right off the top that there's a coaching element to his ability to limit those mistakes in all that stuff. But look, I don't know how good of a coach Cutter was. You see a history of people playing with Bruce Arians in their first year, whether it's Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, whoever, they throw a ton of interceptions. I think Tom Brady's the exception to the rule, but I don't think Bruce is running his offense all the way. I think that's a blend of the two offenses together. So there's that. But yeah, we're going to find out. And that's what Jameis is here to do. He's here to prove that they aren't mistakes or, habits at this point. So we'll see. I mean, that's what he has to prove.
Yeah. That's a good point. I just took a second and went and looked up, Brady. For some reason, I just went and looked up Brady's, like, because everyone that plays for Arians, their interceptions, they tend to go up. And Brady had 8 in 2019, and he's got 7 this year already.
Yeah,
it's like once you get into that offense, the turnover. I mean, that's just how it is, right? That's just how it is. And I'm not bailing Jameis out because he threw those picks, right? He threw those picks. That's what it is. But I do think that offense lends itself to turning the ball over more. And so in this offense, it doesn't, right? And so, if it's a habit or not, we'll see. If he continues to do it in this offense, then maybe that's who he is. But in that offense, I think it may be a little bit of both, and we'll see how much of it was one party versus the other. But that's a good question. And I saw something else.
There's another one here I wanted to address. Someone said, I can't find the comment to put it up, but someone just commented and said they are going to win it all without Drew. And I mean, I think we agree with that. Like when I was making the upside comment about Jameis having way more upside and then making things interesting, that's down the road. Obviously, I think that Drew is obviously 100% your best chance of winning.
Yeah, clearly.
But if everything in a perfect world goes right with Jameis, and then the Saints defense plays the way it did against Tampa Bay every single week, which probably isn't going to happen, but if they did, you never know like how far that defense could carry you. But like they would have to be otherworldly, like neon lights, all this stuff. Like it's ridiculous. So they need to get
every game in the locker room.
They got to get Drew back though. But I do think the accumulation of damage he was taking, I don't know if it's the worst thing that this happened now, because it felt like if he was playing through broken ribs, and
it was going to manifest itself on the field eventually, some way. Yeah.
And I think if you got into the really, really nitty gritty of his mechanics and the way he was doing some different things, there were things that I was looking at it and it's kind of like, this is funny. Even before that Tampa Bay game, it just looked like he wasn't quite moving all the way. Like I think he looked okay earlier in the season. Then he didn't. And I just think that him taking a step back and getting his whole body healthy, I don't know if that's the worst thing, assuming you go through the next couple games with the winning record or no worse than 500.
Yeah. And that's the key. I mean, if they can just stay above water with this, I mean, maybe this hurts your chances at getting a number 1 seed. You know, we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. Maybe they go. Listen, last year it was basically like, hey, if you can be 500 with Teddy, then it's a win, right? And now maybe the calculus has changed a little bit because of the expectations from last year. And you, on paper, maybe have a more talented team, and the defense is kind of starting to hit its stride. So there's some, and finally, they don't have a tough schedule. I mean, the Falcons are a weird team. They're weird. I think they're 3-1 since they changed coaching staffs. They could have been 4-0. I think they had I think it was Detroit. There was a weird loss in there. So that team is playing well. So maybe the record doesn't reflect the quality of the team, depending on how you want to look at it. But they have 4 winnable games at the end of the day, right? And so, I think if there was a stretch where this was going to happen, this may have been the best time, right? Because Drew's going to be, quote unquote, fresh going into the final stretch. The schedule is soft, and your defense is hitting its stride. You got Mike back, you got all your guys healthy. So, I guess this time, if there, maybe no better time than now. And I guess we'll see if the LASIK surgery, if that was the real issue.
So I had heard he got that scheduled before last season, like to have it after the season. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't even I've been told it wasn't a result of the 30-30 thing. Mm. So like he knew his eyes were bad and he was going to get his eyes fixed anyhow, and he kind of like was waiting until after the season. So I don't think that was a direct result of that. I think it was something he knew, and then he was taking care of it regardless if it was 10 interceptions, 12 interceptions, or 30.
Yeah.
Before we I think we should transition off Jameis here in a second. Mm-hmm. Someone just asked, is there any chance of them keeping Brees on the bench if Jameis lights it up? Like, I think Jameis could throw for 1,000 yards and 15 touchdowns with no interceptions over the next 3 games and still go on the bench when Drew comes back. I don't really see it as an issue. I don't think Drew's going to lose his job to anybody. I don't see a scenario where that happens. And I just don't think Jameis will be good enough to make that happen either.
Yeah, I mean, unless he's like peak Mahomes, then it's gonna take a listen. If he comes out and he's like, I mean, listen, there's a certain point where you cannot bench every quarterback, and I don't think Jameis gets there. He has a talent to potentially get there, but I don't think that's gonna happen. It's possible, clearly, but I think it's almost impossible though. It's not happening. It's not happening. Yeah. If it does, then I guess that's a good problem. But I don't think that's what we could be coming here next week talking about. All right, man, Taysom's a starter, so we don't want to go too far there. Okay, let's get into the defense, because that may play as big of a part of the success of this team over the 4 next games as who's going to be under center. So what are you seeing? You watched the film, you wrote about it. You guys make sure you go check that out. What is the defense doing? Why are they playing better? Listen, I don't want to hear anything about a 49ers team that was struggling, because the coach on the sidelines is, he's really good at what he does. So just with all that said, give me your thoughts on the defense and why they're playing better than they have, previously.
I think that the main thing that they've done, and I keep saying this, that the Saints are basically playing the Saints. And what I mean by that is I don't think it really matters who the opponent is at this point.
Yeah.
Because they keep messing up. Their mistakes are self-inflicted. I don't think that it's talent issues. And yeah, obviously, like not having Jimmy Garoppolo, George Kittle, and some other guys hurt San Francisco, and it isn't the same exact team that they've been.
Right.
But if they aren't playing well and they aren't fundamentally sound, like they're going to bust coverages, all this stuff. San Francisco ran like 31 or 39 plays with emotion. And if your eyes aren't in the right place and you're not looking at the right things, and that has been a big issue with the Saints, is that they get fooled by bootlegs because they're watching the backfield, or they get fooled by play action because they're watching the backfield, or some other fake, or there's emotion and they don't make the switch necessary in coverage. And then it leads to a coverage bust and someone's running free down the field. And San Francisco is a team that puts a lot of stress on you to be fundamentally sound. The Saints were fundamentally sound. And I don't care, who was on the field, who wasn't. That's another positive step in the right direction coming off that Tampa game, where you're just trying to see signs of growth from this team. And I think that we're seeing those signs of growth. And I think this was a big game for them. I mean, you're going to take away style points again because of who wasn't on the field. But the way they played this game was so incredibly sound. And if you believe in their talent, and you should believe in their talent, that talent is now executing. And I think if with Drew going out, you're at least seeing the defense get to a place where it gives you a little bit of comfort. Maybe not enough, but more so. If you would have went out like coming into the bye, like if you would have got hurt the game after the bye or the game before the bye, I think it would have been panic level 100 because there's just no way that defense was going to get it done. This defense looks like it can get it done.
Yeah, I'm with you. I want to remake a point that you made, and I think it's as good as you can make it. Is the Saints are basically kind of playing against themselves because it's not a talent issue, right? With Marshawn Lattimore, it's not a talent issue. We know that, right? It's not a talent issue. The secondary busting coverages, I think the improved player Malcolm Jenkins has been huge, right? Because I remember it was during the Buccaneers game where, man, I forget who the commentator was, but they basically said that, DA and Malcolm, they was basically saying how they were learning each other kind of on the fly. And, now they're kind of starting to get a better feel for that. And it's starting to show up on the field. Malcolm Jenkins has been really good lately. He's been really good. And, he's clearly the leader back there in the secondary. When you talk about maybe a vet who, kind of knows what it takes to win and get guys lined up and how to be a leader, et cetera, et cetera. So his improved play has been just great for this team. And it kind of making that signing make a little bit more sense. And, I think, and I was one of those people that said, okay, a lot of these guys from the defense are coming back together. At the end of the day, every season is a new season, right? Drew got a slow start. The defense got a slow start. Malcolm Jenkins was new. They lost Von Bell. And, things just take time to come together. And I think that's happening. And you're kind of starting to see the potential of this defense, right? Another guy's Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I mean, this guy, listen, I think he's an average coverage player, but going forward, he's a missile. He's dynamic. He's exciting. And he's really freaking good. And if you want to compare him to a player, and I don't think he's as good as this player at this, but they're the same type of players. He's like a Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams is not a coverage player. He's not a two-shell safety. He's an attacking safety. He's someone you want in the box during the run game. You want him blitzing. You want him playing the flats. You want him running fast. You want him playing quick. And I think Gardner-Johnson is the same type of player. You want to kind of have him going forward the whole game. And you saw what can happen. And again, guys, the film study has some of this stuff in there. You see what happened when he's going forward. So I just think the improved play of those two guys, the Marshawn has obviously been playing better the last couple games. And what do you know? When all that comes together, Marcus has one of the better games of the season. So I think, they got some momentum going. They see what they can be when they're healthy. And I think that's what's manifesting its way on the field right now. You got a bunch of guys who are playing confident, who see they can play together. They're not busting coverages, and the defense as a whole is, they're flourishing because of it.
We got a comment here, and I think he does make a good point that Marshawn's injury situation is kind of a major thing to watch right now with the way the defense played. They did really come through last year with Teddy out. Mm-hmm. Marshawn stayed on the sideline after getting hurt, so I think that's a positive sign. I feel like
injury.
I feel like I saw him in some of the videos after the game. I could be mistaken. I definitely saw Chauncey in some of those videos.
I think I did see Marshawn. I think I did see.
But yeah, I mean, he's kind of the key to everything. And I think the way the schedule sets up too is you're going to get the best of Marshawn right now. It'd be 2 games against Julio. Denver's got enough decent receivers that he might be motivated to go up against one of these younger guys making a name for themselves.
Maybe Judy or somebody. I don't know.
Yeah. And then, what is it after that?
Eagles. Philly is like a train wreck right now. But they're going to get Jeffrey back. I think Ertz is coming back. Goddard is back now. Miles Sanders is coming back. Wide receivers, you just got the rookie and basically Alshon Jeffrey and this new kid, an undrafted guy who's been playing well. But
so he gets Jeffrey. He'd take Jeffrey out. You go against Kansas City. He's gonna bring it against Tyreek. So you're in a good stretch for Marshawn to be 100% motivated.
Yeah,
66% of the games at least, right. and then possibly in the other ones. But I feel like he's been playing a little bit better anyhow, a little bit more consistently.
I do too.
So Yeah,
It's been like a couple of plays a game with him. Like he hasn't really had that one game where he's been like just horrible, but it would just be a play here, a play there. His quarters coverage, but I do think you're right. Like recently, he's been playing better, maybe even building up to the Tampa Bay game.
Yeah, and I feel like some more of his issues earlier in the season was with like not executing a coverage correctly, as opposed to like loafing on a break or something like that. Like I didn't see any of that.
Yeah.
It was like, oh man, like how's he messing up cover 3 here? Oh, how's he messing up quarters here? And some of the zone stuff. But yeah, it wasn't like he wasn't locked into the assignment. It was like he wasn't locked into his assignment within the defense as opposed to the assignment of the player.
Yeah.
So
that leads to him, and that would lead to you playing slower, which your coverage is not going to be as good, right? So there's a trickle down effect to that.
Yeah. So, but he's huge. He's key to everything. I think the biggest issue really with the team going forward is the interior offensive line.
Yeah, but before we go there, I do want to give a little shout out, and I want to get the give your nickname, the Mauler. What is he? What is it?
The Manitoba Mauler.
Manitoba Mauler, man. I just gotta take a little bit of time and just shout out Onyemata because he's just showing he's just showing up, man. Coach Payton was talking about him on WWL, and he was just talking about how he's got like bend, which you don't really associate that with him, but he was saying, I was like, yeah, he does have some of that for a 3 tech. He's perfect for that position, and the Saints like these guys that play with power, and he's the definition of it. So just shout out to the whole D line too. I mean, they're stopping the run. We spoke about the run defense last week. This was a really hard team to run against, and I thought they showed up again, blocking those guys up. So yeah, just want to get a D line some props because those guys are playing well. But yeah, to the
well, hold up. Well, I think one of the things that's really benefiting Onyemata right now too, and I don't think he got to play in this role earlier in his career, and I think he's taking advantage of it this year. You got a chance at it last year, but I think this year more so, and I think he's more prepared to take advantage of it. Is that he gets to play on 3rd downs and rush the passer. And I don't think he got to do a whole lot of that earlier in his career. And I don't think he was ready necessarily to do it earlier in his career either. He wasn't a matured pass rusher with a plan, but he has that plan. Now he has the opportunity and it's showing up, and he's really, really taking advantage.
Absolutely.
And low key, I mean, it's kind of really made it easy.
No one's thinking. I mean, I hate to say this because it's my guy, but you're not saying where's Sheldon Rankins.
He's stepped up in that void tremendously. And I think when Rankin, if Rankins ever gets back on the field, whatever, now you have those 2 guys on the interior and you're a better team because of it. But you found out about the Manitoba Mauler.
He just disrespects offensive linemen. And by the way, guys, if anyone has like NFL Game Pass, Davenport put a bull rush on the right tackle from the 49ers, and oh man, like you just don't see 300-pound men getting thrown around like that. Just go watch it. I don't want to do a topic on it. Just go watch it. It was crazy. It was crazy. All right. I think you were segueing into something that I think is a problem for the Saints.
Oh,
I think
yes.
The interior O-line is playing. They played bad this past game, right? Even McCoy's kind of been fine, but I mean, he didn't play well this game. I think it was the beginning of the 4th quarter when Jameis gave up those back-to-back sacks. One play it was McCoy, and I think the next one was Easton or Pete. I forget exactly who was in the game at that time, but yeah, those guys they're not playing well right now. I think if Jameis is going to have some success, they have to step the game up. I haven't even started talking about Ruiz yet because that's a whole topic and probably another pod. But I just think that group has to play. That group has to play better.
Yeah, I think the target probably goes on Ruiz's back because he was the guy that he gave up the pressure, and it wasn't even necessarily a competitive play.
Yeah,
when Brees got injured. So I mean, naturally everybody's going to look at him. But even if you take that play out, like he deserves the score. And the week before, in the 3 up, 3 down, I do on the website, I noted that like as he learns things, the moments where he's making mistakes could put people at risk, and then the quarterback gets hit. And it's happening too much. I think that there's been positive moments with him. The Detroit game, you saw him block really, really well on inside zone runs.
Yeah, that play. I remember that play.
Alvin had a 34-yard screen, I think, in this game or something like that, and he was out there as a lead blocker. And there's plays where he's making decent blocks, but it's not consistent enough. And the problem is that position, if you're making 4 mistakes a game, it's 4 mistakes too many. And if one of those 4 mistakes ends up in a quarterback hit or a sack, that's not good. You
4
can't.
pressures is a lot, though.
Right.
I mean, like that's a lot of pressure.
But in context of a guy coming in, new position, no offseason, missed 20 days of camp, some struggles, you get that there's going to be some struggles. But like I said, the problem with the struggles is the struggles put your quarterback at risk, and it's just happening too much. It's happening way too much. I don't want to draw a conclusion on him, but it's happening way too much right now.
Yeah, I think that, man, at some point you're going to have to maybe think about sitting him. I think a lot comes with that because, he's a rookie and, I don't know what his confidence is. Like, I don't know the guy personally and whatnot, but, you're going to stall the offense, right? You can't run offense with guys playing like that on the inside, right? You have to be at least a little bit competitive. And I think playing that's what it takes to play in the inside NFL. You just, a lot of it is just competing, right? And I'm not saying he's not, but you would be able to get, I feel like you should be able to get by on that a little bit. And, you can't run offense with guys getting beat like that. I mean, you can't give guys like that a free run to Drew. You got to slow him down a little bit. You can't miss as many blocks as you do. I mean, it's bad right now. He's a rookie, he's struggling. There's no rookie mini camp. There's no regular mini camp, no OTAs, no training camp, no preseason. You play in a position that you haven't played since I think it was his freshman year in college. So I get all that, but they're starting him at guard, and that's what he is right now, NFL guard. And I just think he's not playing well there. And it makes it worse because, the other guys, again, from this game didn't, right? Ideally, you'd be able to slide McCoy over, give him some help and peek and block up his man. But, you're not even sure if you can get away with that right now, the way the guys are playing.
I think that's going to be the biggest thing with Jameis is that you're going to have to make him feel comfortable with that offensive line. And the way he just lost confidence, like it seems so quickly and it seems so directly tied to that. And I understand why, like they were getting through quick. So then when you see that pressure coming, I understand why you're sped up now and you're so quick to flee the pocket and run. And
absolutely,
they need to create an environment for him where he feels, especially if you want him to push it a little bit. There's a chance that he could really bring that explosion to the offense, but you got to give him that extra half a tick to get the ball down the field, to let things develop. But it's just not, it's not where it needs to be. And it's, I don't even think it's just Ruiz. I think if you look this last game, Teron and Ramczyk it was the best they've played. They were 10 out of 10.
Right.
The interior was rough, but I think even up until this game, Armstead aside, who I think has been pretty consistent throughout the year, I think every single person on the line has had moments where they would admit they could play better, and Ramczyk's included in that, and that's a surprise. So it's so hard with this whole year because you don't know what's an effect of how the year started, where the process is with that. Right. There's good players across the league that are historically good who aren't playing nearly to their level. And it's hard to know how to evaluate.
And Ramczyk's dealing with a knee injury. My guess that may have something to do with it, but he's on the field, and you gotta, what you put on the field is what you put on the field. And I do think you bring up something interesting and that is, we associate the Saints with having a good O-line, and I think they have a good O-line,
specifically an elite O-line.
Yeah, better, well said. But with Drew not back there, I think they're gonna need to live up to that. To that reputation, right? This is the time to step up your game, right? Because if the run game is better, the protection is better, then the wins come easier, right? It's hard to win with a bad O-line. It really just is. And this is the unit that needs to step up. And I said the defense earlier, but I think the O-line is one of those units because with a quarterback like Teddy, like you said, Teddy was 1, 2, 3, ball out, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-step drop, balls coming out in rhythm, take the check down, move on to the next play. Winston, he's liable to hold it a little bit longer, and the longer he holds it, the bigger the yardage you can get from the play, but the higher chance there is for a sack, fumble, something stall the drive, anything like that. So these guys need to step their game up. I think it starts with the guys inside. There's things you can do protection-wise. I'm pretty sure the Saints know that you can put a tight end out there. Right side is the strong side of the line. Slide protection inside, kind of make things smaller. you got the guys left side singled up. Maybe you put a running back over there to ship them. There's things they can do in protection, but that's going to limit the amount of receivers you got on the field. You just took 2 guys out of the route during that. So I'm pretty sure they'll mix a little bit of that in there, but I think at the end of the day, they just have to block better in man-to-man pass protection. And we'll see, right? This is a big challenge for those guys because the ball may not come out as quick.
Hey, you guys watching this live, load in some questions. We'll grab like 3 or 4 in a second. I want to ask you a question first, Sean. I'm curious because I've been wondering this myself.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a level of confidence that's perhaps false right now with their ability to just go out here and be okay because of what happened last year?
Oh man,
it feels like, and I include myself in this, like, Drew got hurt, and I was like, wow, like this isn't good, but they'll be okay. And it just kind of feels like everybody kind of has that same tone, and there's no panic, and they just did it, and they won without Drew and Alvin last year. They won without Mike this year. They just won without Brees again this week for a half. But like, should there be a higher level of concern right now?
I think there should be. I think there should be a high level of concern. I think if you look close enough, there's some things that could manifest itself in it could lead to them losing, right? For one, the O-line, interior O-line, right? Those guys they're not playing well, right? Obviously, right? So if the protection doesn't hold up, then you're not going to be able to run an offense. 2, Mike Thomas hasn't got going yet. Is he going to get going? Right? That's something, right? If he could erase a lot of that. If Mike and Alvin are going, then it's easier for Big Fish to make plays and Emmanuel Sanders and those other guys to be effective. But that hasn't happened yet, right? Winston can be missing throws like he did in the flat, right? I mean, there's things like with Teddy, you kind of knew exactly what you were going to get. You just knew, like, man, listen, the defense has a bad day. Teddy is probably not going to carry this team to victory. Winston, the defense could play elite, and he could just start checking picks. Let's just be honest with you. And I know he's a Saint now. We don't want that to happen, but history shows that he will just start checking picks, right? He tried to throw one this game. He tried really hard to throw a pick, and the defender didn't want it. He was like, I'll give you a pass this time, Jameis, not again. So, yeah, I do think there's reason for concern. I would say that I'm somewhat concerned about it. I do think the Saints have to be favored to win all 4 of these games until something changes, right? They're a better team. And I think they have enough players and enough talent to make it work. I think the defense trending a different way is something that helps this case. I think the fact that they dealt with this last year helps it a lot. And I think the fact that Sean Payton seems to coach better when he has less, I think those 3 factors make me more confident than not. But I do think there's reason for concern. I don't think people should just automatically assume that they're going to go undefeated like they did last year.
Yeah, I think my biggest reason for confidence in their ability to get through it is I mean, you hit on several of them, but number one is Sean. And I think Sean, when he has a point to prove, I think that special things happen. I think when he needs to go out there and just look, you saw it against Tampa Bay, and I just think when Sean's
that game was crazy.
I think he's always on point. But like when there's adversity or there's a point to prove, I just think that you see him, just come through it in ways that are going to uplift them.
I will say this too, and I just saw it in chat, and I was thinking about it as I finished, and I was like, I should have brought that up. Special teams has a chance to kind of give them an edge too, right? I mean, Harris got to quit putting the ball on the turf, obviously, but just, Bond got a big hit on the special teams play. Callaway made a couple of hits. Harris is just, he could make a house call every time he gets the ball. So I just think that's another unit that could definitely, give them an edge. And just, they got to have, I don't know what the rankings are. They got to have like a top 5, top 8 special teams unit in the NFL. So that's another group I think could alleviate, not having Drew for a few games.
We got the first question here. How do you think the potential absence of Traquan and Josh Hill will do to the running game? I know that Josh Hill got hurt last time. Sean talked about how many run packages include him in it. I think it's significant, and I think that is a big deal coming into this game.
Yeah,
especially because you're going to want to rely on that running game. one thing they did is that they did more jumbo after that. So I could see them relying on that a little bit more.
Yeah, Easton coming in. I think I saw Hurston at some point. Yeah.
Unfortunately, you don't. Maybe Garrett Griffin comes up for this game and he serves in more of a blocking capacity. He's solid. He's decent. He's better than Big Fish and Cook at blocking. Cook needs to step it up right now too, man.
You got to figure it out. Yeah, I think Josh Hill is a big one because he's part of so much, so many packages. And every time every time Josh Hill gets hurt, the first thing Sean Payton talks about, like in an interview, is what he could not do with the offense and how much he has to change because he's not playing. So I think Hill being out is a big one. And Traquan obviously blocking on the edge, running game. I think that's underrated part of this game that'll be missed. But Hill is the one that I'm like, dang, that's kind of a hitting problem right there.
Next one is Quan missed a couple tackles. Did the rest of his play make up for this flaw in his game? I would say my review of Quan was exactly what I expected to see out of Quan. I think he misses some tackles, but I think he brings some dynamics to your defense. I think he brings some range. And I also think that quietly, and I think this is something that they lack outside of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, is he's somebody that plays with a little bit of energy and edge and attitude. And I think people feed off of that.
I think so.
So I think that's a big thing with him too. But I think every game you can count on him making a mistake or two. But overall, I think at the end of it, there's going to be more positives than negatives, but there's a reason that you were able to acquire him for an injured player in a 5th-round pick.
Yeah, I mirror that. Coach Payton said he was happy with his performance. He said he played, I think, outstanding or something, WBL. But yeah, I'm with you. You're going to get some good, get some bad. But as long as he's playing fast and playing with energy, I think that's what you can expect out of him.
There's another one on Morstead.
I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, I think Morstead would probably admit himself that there's been a few punts this year that haven't quite been what you're used to seeing from him. There's been a couple missed punts. I think that's something that can probably be cleaned up a little bit. I'm not ready to say that I don't think he can't get there, but it would be, I think that it could tighten up a little bit and that operation could be better than it has been so far. But I think that's true with a lot of things across the board. Again, like I said earlier, it's hard to know what the impact is on a lot of stuff. And it's, punting is part of that. I mean, there's a timing aspect to it. It's a very, very weird year across the board. And I expect him to figure it out at some point and become as consistent as he has been. But look, I mean, they brought in another punter this summer too, and I don't think that was a coincidence. So it's been a weird year. It's been a weird year for him.
Yeah. I think that maybe the man just not getting the punt enough in game because I feel like the Saints are not punting a lot this year at all. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but yeah, he's just not having a good year. I don't really have any reason why, but I think it definitely has to be better.
Let me see if we got one more here. Oh, here we go. Go on down the next 4 games. So let's say Drew misses it. What's a realistic expectation record-wise for the team?
I think Justin got it right. You love 3. You take, like, right now, if you said you go 3-1, you take it and you celebrate, right? And you take the loss, and hopefully, it was against the Broncos and not the Falcons or the Eagles. 2-2, I think you'd accept it, but you would maybe hope for a little bit better. I would say 2-2 would maybe be a little bit of a letdown considering who they're playing. The Chiefs is not on this schedule. If the Bucks are not on this schedule, so yeah, I think 3-1 is a fair prediction based on some of the things they got going on and who they're playing. I think 2-2 would be a little bit of a letdown.
2-2 is palatable. I think you hope for 3-1. The Falcons are. I think they should win all 4 games, but yeah, that's a division game. That's always tough. So, I mean, it's even when the Saints are outstanding and the Falcons are bad, like somehow there becomes like a meeting in the middle, and those games are always closer than they should be just because they know each other so well.
Yeah, big time.
I think people in both locker rooms, both front offices like legitimately hate each other, and I think that brings the level up for everybody. Everybody feels like they're Marshawn playing Mike Evans that week, and they know they got to bring their best. And they also, I think the fan aspect of that too, like people know, like the Saints players know if they play bad against the Falcons, like they're going to hear it. Nobody wants to hear it. So I think there's just everything about the game lifts everybody up. So like those two games are tough to call just based on talent, but yeah, I think 3-1, 2-2, you're okay with it. 2-2, you still have a chance to have that number 1 seed. If you play out, you get Brees back.
Yeah.
3-1, you're in very, very good position, and potentially just a game back if the Packers keep winning games.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I mean, last year the Falcons beat the Saints, and the Falcons had no business beating the Saints. And I'm pretty sure Sean is going to remind all those players about, hey man, listen, this team can beat you. They did it last year. You didn't have a home playoff game because of it. So, let's go out there and, not overlook these guys. Let's get through these 4 games. Defense, this is your time to shine. So I think they'll be ready. But again, I think 3-1, I think you take 3-1. Definitely.
That's it.
All right, guys, that's it for us, man. Thank you guys. Thanks to everyone from YouTube, Periscope, Twitch. Am I missing something? There's probably somewhere else you guys are listening. Thank you guys for joining us. I'll be honest with you, man. Like me and Nick, this whole time we've been doing pods, we've been playing in the stadium by ourselves. I didn't know it was so much better with fans in the stadium, man. I mean, come on. So thank you guys for showing up. Continue to show up. Bring your questions in chat, because just, you see me looking to the side over there and it's like, okay, yeah, the chat made a good point. So it's a different level of interaction that is kind of new to me, and, Nick too, probably. And it's cool. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for supporting. And spread the word. Make sure you guys go to NewOrleans.Football /subscribe. Pick a tier. There's a bunch of different options. Pick the one that works best for you. There's articles on the site. There's different sections, videos, analysis, news, podcasts. Everything you need there is in one place. Make sure you guys follow NewOrleans.Football Twitter account. It's at NODOT Football. Make sure you guys follow Nick at Nick_Underhill. And you guys can follow me at Kevin Wash Jr. So make sure you guys stay safe, and the Saints will play. What do they play? Do they play? Is this a home game this weekend, or is it?
Yes.
Yeah. So they play in the Dome. So you guys be on the lookout for that. So with that said, thank you guys for joining. We'll see you next week. We out.